Hey guys, I'm Daisho and I am here bringing you another episode of Daisho's Playbook, and today I'm going to be going over Firewave, which is, in my opinion, one of the easiest decks to build because it's one of the worst decks in the game. And at the beginning, I was really hoping that this deck would be good. I looked at the list and I didn't really think it would be amazing, but I was always hoping that it would surprise me and end up working out really well. But that never ended up happening. There was a point where I thought it could actually contend with some of the better decks, and I mean, it's not like it loses to all the other decks every single time, but I think it's definitely in the lower half in terms of power level in this format. But without further ado, let's jump right in. Grim Lavamancer is a red for 1/1, red, tap, exile 2 cards from your graveyard, deal 2 damage to target creature or player. One of the best cards in the deck. It can actually take over a game by itself. Your opponents are going to really have to deal with it, otherwise a couple of their creatures are just going to get burned. With the fact that you're playing so many removal spells or burn spells, you can just put those spells in the graveyard, and that the cards in the graveyard, when you cast them, they go straight to the graveyard as opposed to creatures which go to the battlefield. And then you can use your Grim Lavamancer and either shoot them in the face or start picking off their creatures. You can use the 2 damage combined with a burn spell to finish off a bigger creature. It's really, really useful, and he's great. Grim Lavamancer is just one of the best cards in the deck. It's one of the good things about it. Anyway, next 3 cards are Goblin Arsonist. So this guy is not very good, but he's very necessary for the format. So the format's pretty aggressive, and whether it be Mind Maze or even Deadwalkers, obviously Avacyn's Glory, you really just need to be able to deal with your opponent's creatures early on. And Arsonist can block and deal a damage, which can trade with a 2/2, or it can block something and kill 1 toughness creature. It can really do a lot for your deck, and you need it. That being said, if these 3 cards were just shocks, I think this deck would actually just be significantly better if it was just shock. Obviously, if it was Lightning Bolt, which is not too absurd to say that. I mean, Lightning Bolt is on a similar power level of Path to Exile, and they gave 2 of the other decks Path to Exile, so I don't know why they couldn't give the burn deck Lightning Bolts, but that's not the point. Anyway, we got a few Disintegrates. I think they gave an extra one in the DLC, but it's basically just Fireball, X and red, deal X damage to target creature or player. The thing that is pretty relevant is that if a creature would die this turn, exile it instead, so you can get rid of some zombies, which really helps with that matchup. Speaking of really helping in the zombie matchup, Pillar of Flame, sorcery, 2 damage to a creature, so sort of like shock, just sorcery speed. But it does take care of the zombies pretty well, because it exiles them, means they won't come back with Undying, means the grave crawlers can't come back from the graveyard. Sweet card. Anyway, Flame Slash is just a good way to deal with creatures, and since this is mostly a creature-based format, really important card. Now here comes like the core of your offense. If you can draw Kiln Fiend and they don't have removal for it, then often enough you're going to be a happy camper. I mean, the goal of the 2013 burn deck was really just drop Kiln Fiend, kill your creature, kill your creature, kill your creature, you're dead. And finish you off with a Fire Blast or something like that. But this deck doesn't have anything quite that powerful, but Kiln Fiend is still a very good creature in the deck. Reverberate, copy target instant or sorcery, you may choose new targets for the copy. I would rather this be any other decent burn spell. The problem is they don't give me good burn spells, so I have to run Reverberate to try and copy them. But, yeah, unfortunate. Anyway, we got a Searing Spear. 1 Searing Spear? Why just 1? Come on, guys, what are you doing? Like, I don't know why they, like, sure, alright, you're not going to give me Lightning Bolt. That's fine. I understand you think it's too powerful. Shock, maybe also too powerful. Whatever, not at all, but they decided not to give it to me. But they only give me 1 Searing Spear, really? So there's only one in a red, deal 3 damage? Like, that is the quintessential burn spell. How are you not going to give it to me? But I digress. Anyway, Wild Guess. Red for as additional sacrifice it, you have to discard a card, draw 2 cards. This card's okay. I mean, you can discard some land late game and draw a couple. It's really good with Kiln Fiend. That's pretty much why it's in the deck. Just to pump up Kiln Fiend, and it doesn't really cost much to have it in your deck because you can always trade it in for a couple new cards. So anyway, Chandra's Phoenix, 1 red, Flying Haste. Love this card. I mean, whenever an opponent is dealt damage by a red instant or sorcery spell, or by Planeswalker you control, return Chandra's Phoenix from your graveyard to your hand. So it's just a threat that just keeps on attacking and attacking and attacking. If they ever deal with it, you can easily get it back since there's a ton of burn in this deck. Chandra's Spitfire. this thing can kill people ridiculously quickly. It gets +3/+0 when they're dealt damage, and it flies. They can't even block it. Sweet card. Sulfuric Vortex. This card is actually really powerful and is something that the last burn deck could have used. The problem is this format is so aggressive that often enough you're just helping your opponent to kill you faster. But if you can support it with being able to burn their creatures and then finish them off with a couple of other burn spells, then it can be really powerful, and I definitely recommend running both of them. Seismic Assault is a really awkward card in this deck because, as you can see by the curve, we want to hit 7, 6, 5. Like, there are a couple of giant spells at the top of the curve, so discarding lands early on is not too useful. That being said, when you drop a Seismic Assault and you're winning, every single draw you have in your deck is live, because all of your spells do things. I mean, pretty much, and any of your lands just become shocks. That's really awesome, and you can tap out or whatever. It doesn't cost any mana to activate the ability. It can be really powerful. Sometimes it's not great, but sometimes it's not. All right, so you didn't give me any lightning bolts. You only gave me one searing spear. At least you're gonna give me some cheap sweepers, like some pyroclasms or something like that. Nope, we just got one flame break, which will deal 3 damage to each creature without flying, and each player. Creature dealt this way can't be regenerated. So it still hits my Kiln Fiends and my Goblin Arsonists. Doesn't hit my Phoenixes, which is good, but yeah, sweepers that deal damage to creatures and players are pretty awkward. Sometimes you're just going to use this card as a 3-mana burn spell, which is good, but something like Slagstorm is a lot better, just because it will allow you to shape what you want to do with the game. So Slagstorm, if you need to kill their creatures, you kill their creatures. If you want to kill their face, you kill their face. You get to choose. This one does both, and it doesn't even hit their flyers. So, I mean, it's a good card, but not really what I wanted for this deck. Flames of the Firebrand, 3 damage, divide as you choose. It's okay. I mean, it's pretty good in the format. It's really good against illusions. Not terrible against Avacyn's Glory, but nothing special either. Fiery Justice is a lot better. Being able to deal 5 damage amongst any targets is way better. Browbeat, this card's okay. I mean, the fact that they get a choice is bad, but you just have to think that often enough the choice is going to be bad either way. So taking 5 damage means I can kill him quicker. Letting me draw 3 cards, I can also kill him quicker. It's just whether or not they want to make me spend the mana to use the 3 cards, or just be able to draw them. It's a little bit good, but I don't know. Anyway, Firewing Phoenix. I think these were in the last one. You just didn't run them because you didn't really need it. But in this deck, you just need a way to kill your opponent, and there aren't very many other good alternatives. So yeah, I mean, he's a flyer. He can kill people. This thing just, I mean, it's okay. Like, it's a 4/4, comes down on 4. That's already pretty good. The fact that when it attacks, it can kill something is pretty good, and sometimes it'll trade for 2 things. So yeah, he's not a bad card. Outrage. Only got 2 of these, but a lot of the times they're not necessary. Either way, it's just a pretty good burn spell, so not too much past that. Magma Phoenix, I definitely didn't run this last year, but you really need to, because you just need like some powerful spells. Otherwise, you're just playing like bad burn spells and like weird enchantments. But I mean, Magma Phoenix adds just some raw power level. I always think that this is a powerful card. Sometimes it goes in the wrong direction, but it's definitely a powerful card. Inferno Titan is obviously insane. Always has been insane. One of the most powerful cards in the format. They only gave me 1. Jerks. Anyway, Flame Blast Dragon is also pretty good. The main issue is that it doesn't do anything the turn it comes out, but if it survives that turn, then it will deal a ton of damage, and the fact that you can just kill anything or just hit their face is really sweet. And then finally, Flame Wave, just some giant spell at the top of the curve. Last year, I was pretty against it because I felt that if the game was such where your opponent had a bunch of creatures out on turn 7, then you probably already lost that game, and you wouldn't get to land drop 7. This game, you don't have as many burn spells. There's a good chance that you're barely alive, and you just draw that 7th land, and you can stabilize. You're killing their biggest threat, but their little threats are still getting in. I don't know. I think it's a possibility. Anyway, let's jump into the other cards. And so normally, these decks, like, these are just options or other things, neat things that you can do with the deck. In Firewave, I think that these are just pretty much bad cards. I mean, Crimson Mage it has no place in this format. It's just not nearly powerful enough to be played with the other cards in duels, so I don't know what they were thinking with that one. Stormblood Berserker is powerful enough. It's not very good in this deck. It's a lot better when you have a lot of things that help you push damage through. I mean, we don't have too many cheap burnt spells in this deck, and there's 3 1-drops that can help you. Maybe the Grim Lavamanthers can attack if they don't play a 1-drop, but yeah, he's really not that good. Even when he does get his power on, I mean, it's like they can still just kill him. It's not that big of a deal. I mean, it's obviously a decent card if you can get the Bloodthirst activated, but without that, not very good. Slith Firewalker's okay. I mean, he's not a terrible magic card. It's just not really too strong, and sometimes it's hard to get going. And I mean, the first time it attacks for 1 damage, and then by then, it's not even a surprise anymore, so they can just deal with it 2/2 pretty easily. Torch Fiend's pretty bad. That's pretty much all I have to say about that card. Final Fortune is interesting. I just don't think it was worth it. Most of the time, if this had just been another burn spell, I could have killed them. So I don't really see the reason to run it. The instant is so freaking misleading because you can't do it at their end step and then try and take 2 turns, because then the first one will be the extra turn, and then the end step of that turn, you lose the game. Pilgrim's Eye. This card's just really not that good. I don't know why they felt this deck needed to search out mountains. It's not like there are multiple colors possible. I just don't really get it. Regathan Firecat. This is like super bad Kiln Fiend because it already gets the bonus, but it costs a mana more and it has 1 less toughness. And it has less upside. So, I mean, it's good with Fire Shrieker, but not running Fire Shrieker, as you can see. Fire Shrieker, not enough creatures. Even the creature version of this deck is just bad, so. Furnace of Wrath, I don't know why they keep putting this card in duels. It has never made the cut in any of my decks because it's really bad. You drop this card, and unless it's completely stable board and your opponent doesn't have anything to deal damage to you, you're going to die the turn you play. This is a 4-mana spell. If it was like red, then it would be good because then you can drop it and take advantage of it. But you need to have like 7 mana to take any real advantage from Furnace of Wrath. I mean, it's a really bad card. Just like most cards, so when you go back to something like, here, perfect example, Pilgrim's Eye, this card just barely does anything. I mean, it recycles itself, gets you a mountain, and attacks them for 1 a bunch, maybe chump blocks, but it really just doesn't do that much. A card like Staff of the Flame Mages, you're going to gain a couple of life off it, but it doesn't do that much. Furnace of Wrath, this card loses you the game. You play this card, and if you hadn't played anything, you would have been a higher percentage chance to win the game. I just don't get why they included it in the deck every year. Relentless Assault. I mean, they tried to do that whole thing. Like, I mean, I focused on it in my unconventional deck build, but where you just basically try and get your creatures to attack twice. So you got this Furnace of Wrath, you got Relentless Assault, you got Fire Shrieker, but it's just not worth it. The creatures are not good enough to be played in this format, and trying to use gimmicks to get them through is just foolish. Fire Elemental, I don't know, maybe. Maybe this deck just needs a 5-mana 5/4, but I'm also not running Fire Servant. There's too much removal to just drop a 5-drop and hope that it'll work. When you're not playing that many creatures, adding a couple more is usually a bad idea, which is one reason why maybe Inferno Titan, Flame Blast Dragon, and Magma Phoenix are not really too good on the top end, because a lot of the times my opponents can just remove them. But yeah, anyway, I've never seen this card before this game, but it's not very good. They didn't push it very hard. It's a 5-mana 4/1, and its ability is a sacrifice ability, so you're probably not going to get much value out of him. Not only that, it's not like you can attack with 3 of these, and then the one that they block, you just sacrifice and shoot them, because you can only activate this ability as a sorcery. That being said, in Limited, I'd play this card. I'd play the hell out of this card, because you can just sacrifice it for 4 damage to a creature. It's a 5-mana, deal 4 damage to target creature spell. It's pretty sweet. Cone of Flame, you need to have 3 targets, so it's uncastable on an open board, and a lot of times you're just going to have to hit yourself or one of your creatures or something like that. Lava Axe, this deck isn't like powerful enough that just dropping a Lava Axe can win you the game. You need to be doing other things except dealing them damage straight to their face. This card was in the last game too. It's also not very good. If you're using spells to deal damage to them or whatever, then you're not going to be able to cast this thing, because you're going to need to have like 10 mana before you can even cast it. It's ridiculous. I don't know. Hostility just doesn't seem very good. I'm not going to bother reading it. It has too much text on it, and It's not that good. Stalking Vengeance. I don't even know what this thing does. Whenever another creature dies, deals damage. Okay, this deck isn't running enough creatures for this to be relevant. And then Inferno just deals 6 damage to everyone, including you and all your guys. And yeah, I don't want to be doing that, I don't think. But anyway, that's the deck. I'm not even going to bother with gameplay because it's pretty simple. I mean, I don't even think that people are going to disagree. Maybe the 3 cards would be these 2 Final Fortunes and the Stormblood Berserker. I don't know, maybe some people are going to suggest Fire Servant or something like that. But past that, I really can't see anybody disagreeing with this deck guide. It's just not that relevant. I mean, this is one of the worst decks in the game. I really enjoy doing the deck guides for the top decks, but I mean, the bottom ones, it just sort of seems like, what's the point? You can run this deck any way you want, and it's still going to be mediocre. But hope you guys managed to enjoy anyway, and have a wonderful day. Bye.